Hello and welcome to part 2 of Skeletal System Chapter 6. We just, let me show you, finished talking about sesamoid bones. We had classified the bones, and now we're going to go on to general features. So this is a really nice diagram of a femur that's been sliced down the middle here. And that's great because we get to look inside it and see the different parts of a bone like this. And that's going to determine what makes it strong, what makes it a storage unit, and all the functions of the bone given its form. So vocabulary is the first thing I wanted to show you. We did talk about compact or dense bone, and I had said to you this is very compact here. Let me go to my pen. Go to red. So this is compact here, as you can see, and then it's not so compact when you're looking in the interior part of the bone here, and that's going to be called spongy because it looks like a sponge. So that's really a good vocabulary for that, spongy bone. So you either have compact or dense bone, and then you have spongy bone. So in this diagram here, this is a living bone. This is what it would look like with the red and the cartilage on it. And this is very irrigated. Bone is terrifically irrigated. There's lots of blood coming to it. That's why it repairs so readily. And you see the arteries coming to it here. They're actually exiting through the outside of the bone. And this is a bone then, like you'd see in our lab, a dead bone. And we have plastic ones, but we also have real ones. When we're in person. So compact, spongy, and then another structure here is the periosteum. Peri meaning around, osteum, bone. So periosteum, notice it here. Periosteum is this layer of dense connective tissue that is going to surround the bone. And notice that when you have a vessel that's irrigating it, it's going to have to go, through the bone, through some little hole, foramen we call them, and out through the periosteum here. Okay? The way I describe the periosteum is that layer, if you give you a bone to your dog to chew on, and it's got that outer leathery, that's hard to say, leathery layer that sort of peels off the bone. That's the periosteum. If you don't have a dog, I don't know how to tell you what that is. So this is better pictures of what compact bone looks like and what spongy bone looks like. This would be an example in the skull. Again, we talked about if you take a blow to this here, then it's gonna have a certain amount of give to it. It won't shatter. And this is another drawing of a periosteum. They can actually be peeled off the bony section of a long bone. The periosteum functions. We want to know, why is it there? Why do you have this very thick layer? And it's going to protect the bone. It's going to isolate the bone. And it's also going to be a location of attachment to some of these vessels and nerves. So think of those vessels irrigating, and they're going to come through the periosteum and out to somewhere else. It's an anchor. It's an anchor for that vessel. It also is very important in bone growth and repair. So we're going to have cells that are sitting there ready to regenerate some of that bone if needed. And in fact, your remodeling of bone goes on constantly. You're always remodeling bone. So if you put a lot of force on it, how? With muscles, right? If your muscles are pulling because you're doing a lot of weightlifting and you're pulling on that bone, it's constantly depositing a little more bone to be able to not snap. It's going to have to hold that. And then you stop exercising and you lose some of that bone. So that remodeling is always going on. In that layer, in that periosteum, you're going to have cells that are called osteoblasts. osteoblasts, and an osteoblast meaning origin, beginning. So this is a young cell that is going to be able to deposit new bone. Okay, a young bone cell. Another function is the fibers of this periosteum are interwoven with the tendons. So look at this great picture here. So you have a muscle and it's going to be wrapped around by this fascia that's going to become a tendon. And this tendon is going to attach onto your bone, right? Attaching right here. But then it sort of fuses with that outer layer of the bone, that's the periosteum. So we say that those are interwoven with a tendon, and just imagine how strong this is going to be. You don't want this muscle to pull right off the bone, right? So this fascia, as I called it, this layer that surrounds the muscle, is going to become the tendon that then integrates with this periosteum. And look in this view. In this view, this is the bone, and this is the periosteum from here to here. And not only does it do that, but it kind of sends portions of it into the inside of the bone, further anchoring that so it's not going to come loose. Okay, those are called Sharpie's fibers, and I'll show you in a little bit. So it's sort of rooting right inside the bone. There they are, the word perforating fibers or Sharpie's fibers. And those fibers extend into the bone matrix. The matrix is just the general region of the bone. Okay, so very important, this periosteum. It's gonna keep that bone with its muscles all in one piece. Okay, that was periosteum, around the bone. What about endosteum? Okay, endo means inside. So endo is inside the bone. And here, we're looking at the inside of a bone. If I did a cross section, well, the endosteum is going to be lining all this inner section of the bone. There it is, endosteum. So we have a liner on the outside, we have a liner on the inside, okay? And that too is going to be lined with osteoblast. Remember, blast is young. So with these young cells that are able to deposit new bone. It's interesting to think about, how would you make a really good bone? Like if an engineer said to you, I want you to fabricate a human bone that's really great, because it's got to have two things. It's going to be hard, right? It's going to hold up your body. But at the same time, it's going to be a little flexible, because you don't want it to be shattering if something happens. You fall and you shatter your bones. You don't want to do that. So it's got to have this balance of rigidity and flexibility. So how does that work? Well, bone, we say, is a connective tissue. You've been doing your tissue, so you should know that. It's a connective tissue, and it has a matrix. The matrix is all the part that is not a cell. So the tissue has cells, and then surrounding the cell, that's the matrix. That matrix outside of the bone cell has both inorganic and organic compounds in there. So, meaning with carbon and without carbon. So about 85% of it is hydroxyapatite crystals. They're crystals of calcium and phosphate. So this is mineral. It's all mineral. And on top of that, it has calcium carbonate, minerals. So here you are depositing minerals in bones, and that's going to give it its rigidity, making it tough, hard. It also, to a smaller extent, has magnesium, sodium, potassium, fluoride. All these are going to be in your bones also, okay? But these two that I mentioned here really are in the greatest number, greatest percentage. About 30% of it, okay, is made of collagenous fibers and makes it flexible. So this doesn't add up, right? Here, this doesn't add up. So it's because it's around, about. Okay, so if we wanted to add up, this is about 70-30. This tends to be flexible. It could be more of this and less of the other. And that's made of collagen fibers. And collagen you hear a lot about in skin to create that flexibility of the skin. So we have those fibers, those collagen fibers in bone also. In the regular semester, I use clicker questions. It's kind of fun to throw them at you anyways, even though we're not in person, and you can think about them before I give away the answer. The type of bone that holds a tendon farther from a joint, preventing the tendon from pinching itself, is called a... I'll give you a couple seconds. I thought I'd given you the answer, but that is a sesamoid bone. And we are going to stop right there on that clicker question and move on the next one in part 3 to cells and which are the cells that make up this tissue. Thanks for listening.